Chapter 3. After Lori arrived at her house, Alexander was nervous of what would occur to his father. His mother gave him a big hug and told him that she was sorry, but his father will not return to the house for a long period. Alexander started to cry because he knew from now on the gains that came thanks to his father will be null, and now the money will have to be obtained either by his mother or by himself. Lori cried all night. She was already missing her husband, regardless of all the crimes he committed and all the lies he told her. And as to his son, she was still in love of that gentle and honest man who always loved her, as if the only thing he did not lie about it was the love he felt for her. That's why she started to think about how she would live without Lord. She didn't care about all the money they would lose. After many hours of crying, Lori finally fell asleep. Instead, Alexander was thinking on how to survive, knowing that the crimes that his father committed prevented him from having him at home every day, thus taking away almost all the money they were used to have. With this, Alexander began to think what he would go through with his life if there is no money. Will he have to drop his studies? Will he have to go out with his friends to party whenever he wanted? Could he eat what he wanted when he wanted? He was sure that the only way he could have those privileges was working, but his parents teach him that he will work when he lives alone. That's why he instantly discarded the idea to find a job. The only person who could help him with his problems was his mother. Believing that his mother would be the salvation, he finally fell asleep. The next day, the doorbell rang. Lori opened the door, and it was the officer, called Jules McGregor, who wanted to check the house to find more clues that would allow for the incriminating to the Lord. Lori, knowing the reason why the officer arrived at his house, denied him entry, affirming the following: "My husband is not here, he's paying for his actions." To which the officer replied, "I know he's in jail for money laundering and possible person responsible for murder." Lori angrily replies, If you know, then why are you coming? Entering my house like this, out of nowhere, is not going to solve anything. So I urge you to leave. And if you want to find out something, go and ask my husband personally." Finally, the officer apologized to Lori for arriving at bad time, but that he will return in a few days accompanied by more police officers. And that day she couldn't deny that they do not enter. This is because there are some things that are not solved yet. After the police McGregor left the house, Lori started to check all the accounts. She wanted to know what money they owed, because with the absence of her husband, she had to take care of all the expenses in the house. So she has to look for work as soon as possible, since she doesn't want to get into debt or anything. That's why she called an old friend on the university to ask him if he knew a company who needed a lawyer for her to have a stable work and could supply all the family needs. Fortunately, her friend told him that it was a company that precisely needed a lawyer. So he gave Lori's CV. Now the only thing that they have to do is to wait for the company's response to start the new life, a life without Lord Garrix. On the other hand, Alexander woke up early to go to the university. He was very happy knowing that the absence of his father would not affect his economic status at all. So when he met Sebastian at the classroom, he told him that his father was already in jail, but there was nothing to worry about it, as his mother was finding a job. Sebastian told him that money was not the most important thing in life, that the only thing that Alexander must care about it is his father's situation. If he's doing alright in jail, if he needs food or of clothes, not caring about his money, because money is not the only thing in life. After Alexander heard his friend's opinion, he told him that his father was in jail because he wanted to be like that. No one punished him for committing all those crimes. Finally, Alexander said that life must continue and that thanks God he has his mother that could supply all his needs. Then, when Alexander arrived home, he found his mother drinking and crying alone. The look in her eyes made Alexander understand that his mother was crying because of Lord. At that moment, something in Alexander broke up. He understood that the only thing that his father made was damage to his family with all his actions. When Alexander arrived at his house, he met with the officer McGregor. This time he came to inform the Garricks that all the money his father had collected in the company will be confiscated by the authorities, since he literally built his company on pillars of corruption, and since then no gain has been in an honest way. That's why basically all the money that the Garricks had will vanish. That family that once had everything will soon live in ruins, without any dollar. After Alexander heard the officer's news, he thought in his mother and what reaction she would have at that moment. That's why, with an angry tone, Alexander told the officer, "Officer, with all the respect, I will be in charge to tell my mother this bad news, so I'll be grateful if you can leave my house, because I feel that my mother is not going through the best time in her life, for a stranger to arrive and damage her life even more. So thank you for coming and informing of everything, but you can leave now. Thank you." After the police heard that he was not welcome in the Garricks' home, he took a piece of paper from his vehicle. Alexander could see in his face of satisfaction after he gave the paper to him. "Well," he said, "in this paper you could see all the debts that his father left before being caught by the police. Here is clear that your father laundered money in vain." With all that money he had, he did not even solve the debts. Alexander tried to calm down and not to punch him in the face. Instead, he told him, "That's not your problem. Finally, that debts my family has are not going to be paid with your fucking salary. I swear that I might forget that you are a police and punch you in your face, in your rat face. But I won't do it. I will avoid more problems. I am enough with my problems and I don't want a new one." After the officer heard Alexander's reply, he took his handcuffs and shouted, "You want to be with your father? Okay, I can help you with that. Come with me to the station right now. If you refuse, I will have to use the force. Let's go." Alexander opened his eyes as he has saw God. He told the officer that all the things he told him were caused because of the bad news he told him. He told him that he didn't want to be rude. He apologized to the officer. Instead, the officer didn't care about it and put the handcuffs on him without saying anything. Alexander begged to avoid another problem, thinking of his mother. Then he drove to the police station and locked Alexander in a cell. Then the officer McGregor called Lori and told her, "Hello, Officer McGregor? The same who sings and dances. What do you want? I remember that I told you I don't want to see you, neither hear you again." Okay. I only want to tell you that your son Alexander is being held here at the station. But I know I know you don't want to hear me anymore, so have a good night." "Wait, why Alexander is the officer McGregor hung up the phone and left Lori wondering how his son was doing. So she took her bag and ran to the station. She started to worry about what would happen to her son. She thought that Alexander could be also involved in lower crimes. She was so worried that she was not driving with her five senses. Unfortunately, she was driving so fast that on an intersection she crashed with a truck, leaving her in the worst state a human could be. She couldn't move and started to cry and shout for help. Minutes after, an ambulance arrived, but Lori was too weak to stay awake. She had his body full of blood. He had broken bones on her legs, arms, even her wrist. The lifeguards that were in the ambulance didn't understand how after an accident with that magnitude, she was still breathing. They called this case a miracle. Now the problem is if she could resist the trip to the hospital. While Lori was trying to survive, Alexander was praying for his mother to come quickly because he felt alone in that small prison. That's why that's why he asked the officer McGregor about his mother. Officer McGregor, do you talk with my mom? Yes, Garrix, like 2 hours ago. She didn't believe his son could follow her husband's steps, full of vandalism. I think she must have passed out from the shock after knowing that her son is in prison. Haha. Don't talk like that. The world has power. And my mom is all right. I swear that if something occurred to her, it's all your fault. Maybe you put her so nervous that maybe you make her crash or something like that. Oh, it's my fault. Did I tell an officer an amount of bad words? Did I? No, right? If something occurs to your mother, it's your fault, not mine. Assume the consequences of your acts. Ah, why are you so mean? To me and to my family. Does my father hurt you or something? Your fucking father hurt me and all my family. Do you remember a man your father killed at an abandoned pizza restaurant? Yeah, of course. That poor man was my brother. I know he wasn't going for the right path, but he doesn't deserve to be killed in that way your father made it. That's why Lord has to pay for all the damage he caused in all these people, including my brother, my family, and me. Officer, I am really sorry for that, but it's not my fault. It was my father's. All that things he made or not were his decision, not mine, neither my mom's decision. I know you're hungry for revenge, but attacking someone that does not have anything to do with it is not correct. After Officer McGregor heard Alexander, he started to think of what he made, but he was still hurt. If you don't want anything to do with your father's errors, you offended the authority and you have to pay. I am really sorry for that, seriously, but I need to get out of this jail. I need to prove that my mother is okay. Please, help me. Something in the officer changed after the conversation. He thought that maybe Laurie and Alexander don't have to pay Lord's mistakes. That's why he forgave Alexander and helped to find his mother. At the police station, at the police car, Officer McGregor received a call. After the call finished, he told Alexander that they found his mother, but not in the best state. She was in the hospital because she had a car accident. Alexander knew that something was wrong, and that his mother's accident was caused because of his immaturity.